Recording in progress.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Sadaqallahu al-Azim. We are sorry for the technical problem. Now I kindly invite you to listen to the national anthem of Algeria. Allow me please first to congratulate the chair of the conference, Dr. Souheil Ahlalat, for persevering in making this event see the light, for choosing such a compelling topic, and for gathering such a varied cadre of experts from all over the world. In fact, the conference's concern with delving into the issue of blended learning is very significant because the progression in digital methods for education was imminent even before the unpredictable onset of COVID-19. Yet, this pandemic redesigned the scenario of education, rapidly and made us realize the pertinent importance and need of technology in education. Without further ado, I kindly invite the President of the conference, Dr. Soheila Hlalat, to deliver her opening speech. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. First, I would like to apologize for my voice hoarseness that I have got suddenly a few days ago. Professor Saidi Lamir, Vice Rector of Batna II University, prominent professors in Algeria and abroad, dear colleagues, participants, and students, good morning. It is a great pleasure and honor to welcome you to the first international online conference on blended learning of foreign languages, hosted by the Department of English Language of Batna II University in Algeria. First, I would like to warmly thank our guests who have kindly accepted to share with us these moments as keynote speakers, despite their loaded timetables and commitments. Namely, we have Professor Melton from Turkey, Professor Ruth from Spain, Dr. Salali from Russia, Dr. Saklen from Norway, and Dr. Leila from Tunisia. Their knowledge and experience will undoubtedly add considerable substance to this conference. I extend my thanks also to the professors in our department, Professor Mjahi Mohamed Saleh, the founding father of the English department, Professor Abubu, the president of the scientific committee, Professor Bahloul, the president of the Faculty Scientific Council, and Dr. Aisi from the French department, who were pioneers in initiating and boosting research in our faculty. This conference will be held in two languages, English and French. The participants from 11 foreign universities and 28 Algerian universities and high national schools are all enthusiastic to debate and exchange their views of blended learning of foreign languages. This teacher learning model that has become now an alternative in higher education due to recent innovations in information and communication technology. Indeed, and thanks to ICT and its tools, geographical distances are no more a handicap for meetings. The internet has no boundaries, and the world is now a one virtually connected community. Through this online conference, we will expose and exploit the different researchers' experiences and expertise of blended learning and teaching worldwide in order to evaluate its effectiveness. This issue is of a growing concern in the Algerian educational vision and requires an exhaustive attention at all levels. As teachers, our objective is to synthesize through debates and discussions what could serve as an adequate language instruction methodology that offers better learning opportunities to our students and help teachers to plan for any future improvements in their professional career. Finally, I would like to thank everyone, and mainly the organizing committee members, for their tremendous efforts to make this event happen. Welcome all, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hlalat. Now, I'm heartily pleased to invite Professor Mohamed Saleh Mjahi, the faculty teacher's representative, to deliver his speech. Professor Mjahi, the floor is yours. Speech.
Without mic. The mic is there. It's okay. Yeah.
Good evening. بعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Yes, I can hear you.
والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. يسرني جدا أن أرحب بممثل مدير جامعة باتنا النائب المدير بروفيسور سعيدي، برئيسة هذا الملتقى حول التعليم المدمج، وأن أقول مرحبا بكم بكل المشاركين الذين شرفونا بحضورهم عبر العالم. Il me fait grand plaisir, bien sûr, d'être l'accompagnateur de ces jeunes générations avec lesquelles j'ai eu beaucoup de joie et beaucoup de bonheur. Et je peux aussi dire qu'en essayant de leur apprendre beaucoup de choses, ils m'en ont appris davantage. C'est pour cette raison que je les remercie. بعض الكلمات باللغة الإنجليزية. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, it's my pleasure and an immense honor to say to you, welcome to this webinar. And it is thanks to these new generations that we have succeeded in perpetuating the awakening of knowledge from one generation to another. As a former head of Batna University, I had to enjoy throughout my whole career living with many new generations. And when an old man like me is talking to young generations, it means that I see hope in them and that continuity will be there with them. Thank you all, and it is an immense pleasure to be again with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Njay. I kindly invite Professor Amal Bahloul, President of the Scientific Council of the Faculty of Letters and Foreign Languages, to deliver her opening speech.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, precious guests. Welcome to the first online international conference on blended learning of foreign languages and your reality in higher education. Dear Professor Lamir Saidi, Vice Rector of Batna II University, Dr. Souheila Hlalat, President of the conference, Professor Ghouar Amr, Dean of the Faculty of Letters and Foreign Languages, Dr. Riyad Mgillati, Head of the Department of English Language and Literature, Professor Mohamed Saleh Najai, the Faculty Teachers Representative. On behalf of the President of the Scientific Council of the Faculty of Letters and Foreign Languages, I wish to thank most sincerely the President of the conference, Dr. Souheila Hlalat, for organizing this exceptional event which explores the concept of blended learning. I would like to express my gratitude and warm welcome to the keynote speakers, Professor Meltem Huri Baturay from the University of Ankara, Turkey, Professor Ruth Breeze, University of Navarra, Spain, Professor Sarah Lee Ginsberg from Navarra University, Dr. Hassan Saklain, University of Navarra, Spain, Dr. Leila Najah Belkiri, Gabas University, Professor Mohamed Saleh Najai, University of Batna II, Professor Hashmi Abubu, Batna II University, and Dr. Rabia Aisi, Batna II University. May I thank the President of the Scientific Committee, Dr. Souheila Hlalat, and the Co-President of the Scientific Committee, Dr. Samia Mouas, and the President of the Organizing Committee, Dr. Rabia Aisi, who generously helped to make this event come together to become a success. I am delighted to welcome all the presenters, and I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you. We couldn't have done it without you. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, this conference is about an innovative concept, blended learning, which embraces the advantages of both traditional teaching and traditional teaching in the classroom and ICT supported learning, including both offline and online learning. This conference is an opportunity to discuss the idea of blended learning, its main features and requirements of its implementation, most importantly, the scope of blended learning in the educational system, what it might look like for teachers and learners, is it to some extent the solution to problems prevailing in our educational system, and how this innovative approach needs to be adopted to ensure greater flexibility in the learning process. We enthusiastically expect through this conference that we suggest solutions to rapidly do the practical applications. Ladies and gentlemen, this first online international conference on blended learning as a new reality in higher education is an important opportunity to take stock of progress and to share experiences from both within and outside Algeria. I respectfully wish all the participants in this conference acquire many interesting and beneficial findings, and I hope you will find the debates and discussions most interesting and useful. May I take this opportunity to convey my very best wishes for an effective, successful and productive conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Bahlul. Now I kindly invite Mr. the Vice Rector of Batna University, Professor Lamir Saidi, to deliver his speech and declare the official opening of the conference. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-mursalin. Assalamu alaikum. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est avec grand honneur et plaisir qu'au nom de l'Université Mustapha Ben Boulaïd Batna II, je vous accueille aujourd'hui dans nos espaces virtuels. La tenue de cette première conférence internationale sur l'apprentissage hybride des langues étrangères, organisée au département de la Faculté des Lettres et Langues étrangères, marque une première et augure de nouvelles perspectives. J'accueille et remercie tous les intervenants qui vont débattre lors de cet événement d'un sujet d'actualité dans l'enseignement supérieur contemporain. La thématique abordée s'imbrique parfaitement dans le contexte présent et dans une université considérée en tant qu'actrice importante dans l'enseignement supérieur et la recherche scientifique. Je tiens à souligner l'investissement de notre université dans la formation hybride en privilégiant grandement la recherche en technologie numérique, mais aussi la recherche sur l'enseignement des langues étrangères, dans une perspective multidisciplinaire. La formation Blended Learning ou formation hybride est un dispositif mixte qui unit la formation à distance de type e-learning et la formation en présentiel. Ce nouveau dispositif est de plus en plus utilisé pour accroître les compétences des apprenants et leur productivité. À ce sujet, nous avons répondu favorablement en offrant plusieurs alternatives aux acteurs de la vie universitaire, la mise en place de la plateforme Moodle à la disposition des enseignants et des étudiants, la création des sites personnels pour les différents acteurs de l'enseignement de notre université, et nous avons récemment inauguré la Web TV de l'université Batna II. En effet, la faculté LLE, partie intégrante de l'université Batna II, contribue activement à la formation en langues étrangères à travers ces trois départements: anglais, français et traduction. Je suis fier de constater que dans l'apprentissage de ces langues étrangères, notre université s'implique grandement dans la préparation aux différents concours et la proposition de divers projets de recherche dans ces nombreuses disciplines au sein de ces différentes composantes. Autant dire que le thème qui sera débattu lors de cette conférence nous intéresse au plus haut point, car il mettra en exergue les efforts consentis pour faire face aux défis générés dans un contexte sans précédent et décidera, pourquoi pas, d'autres propositions, plus à même de répondre aux attentes de notre secteur. Autant de questions passionnantes, dont je ne voudrais pas plus longtemps retarder l'étude. Je remercie la présidente de ce webinaire, Dr Hlalat Souhila, et tout le comité d'organisation de leurs efforts pour mener à bien cette expérience. Je vous souhaite une belle journée scientifique et des échanges fructueux et déclare ouvert ce webinaire. Merci à tous.
Thank you, Mr. the Vice Rector of Batna University. The conference is officially opened, and I kindly invite you to join the plenary session moderated by Dr. Souhila Hlalat and hosted by Dr. Malak Belhassen. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again. Yeah, we start our plenary session, which is divided into two sessions or two parts. First, we start with 4 presenters, Professor Meltem from Turkey, Professor Mohammed Salih Najai from Batna University, Dr. Sarali from Spain, and Dr. Saklan from Norway. So, and after that, we'll have a discussion of half an hour, then we move to the second session of our plenary, in which we will have also 4 other presenters. We'll have Professor Ruth from University of Navarra, Spain, and Professor Hashmi Aboubu from Batna University, Dr. Leila from Gabs University, Tunisia, and Dr. Aisi Radia from Batna University. The second session will be moderated by Professor Said Kiskas. Now I invite Professor Meltem from Turkey, yes, from University of Atini. Please correct me, Dr. Meltem, if I make any mistake of pronunciation. Yes, first, yes, I will read her biodata and then invite her to present her research work. Yeah. Just second, Professor Meltem. I have first to read your biodata, then I will let you present your work. Professor Meltem, yes, Huri Baturey, received her bachelor's and master's degrees in English language teaching from Gazi University. She completed her PhD in the field of computer education and instructional technology at Middle East Technical University. She published many articles in highly reputable international and SSCI indexed journals, and worked as a researcher at an action in Coast European Cooperation in Science and Technology, which was supported by the European Union Framework Program Horizon 2020. She also participated in TÜBİTAK, the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, and Erasmus projects as a researcher. She studied technology-assisted language teaching, use of augmented and virtual reality at education, distance education, and design of multimedia-rich teaching materials, leader of Let-In, learning and teaching innovations, Research and Development Group and works as a faculty member and the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning at Atilim University, Ankara, Turkey. Professor Malcolm, yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this organization. I am so proud to be here. I am so pleased to be here. I would like to first thank to the organization committee, and also I would like to thank Dr. Fawzia Rauf from Setif 2 University. If I pronounce it in the wrong way, please forgive me, you all. So I am here. I would like to talk about this, the flipped classroom model today. And I will also talk about some research studies on flipped English language classroom. So I want to share my presentation, and thanks for this warm introduction. Thank you. Yeah, can you please just check if it is on the screen right now? My presentation. Is it okay? Can you see that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yes. As I said, I'm going to talk about flipping English language classrooms in the post-pandemic era. First, I'm going to start my presentation by giving the definition of this flipped classroom, which we have lately heard quite a lot about this model maybe for a decade. We are hearing about this flipped classroom model. How it was applied in English language teaching. I will also present some research studies, their results. So I hope this will be a very valuable presentation for you all. Okay, actually, how we came to this point? This is a new era for education, because already there are some strategies, changes, and a shift in learning strategies in the field of education and also in English language teaching. Because the time change, technology is integrated into the field of education, so everything is changing. We were already dealing with the transfer of digital environments into our teaching, all those multimedia tools, some digital tools. We were trying to transfer them or use them in our teaching, but suddenly something happened and this COVID pandemic started, okay? And it changed completely the whole world, even the education. We all experienced this deeply in our lives. Okay, so this required a need for new methodology in English language teaching. Already we were trying to apply or expose our students to learning environments that deploy cognitive processes that work higher order thinking skills of our students. And we were trying to implement active learning strategies in our classrooms to make these new kind of Z-Gen students learn more. Okay, so we wanted to make them more active in our teaching, because these Gen Z, Generation Z or Z generation students are different from the previous generations, because lecturing is totally not good for these digital natives. They want to, how they view education is that it should prepare them for life, okay? So they should practice something. They shouldn't just listen passively a presentation or a content or an instructional content, whatever you call, by going to school and sitting in the classroom. They have to apply it. They have to analyze something in the classroom. They should do something, some practices. And they don't like information bombardment, because they can easily access all kinds of information. They have the technologies in their hands. So for these people, we don't need to transfer information anymore. What they need is skills development. We should develop their skills, and we should prepare them as they require for life. So we use some technological tools for this. multimedia like videos, streaming, online resources, Web 2.0 tools, whatever we know, we are using them. And also they are very reluctant for regular lessons because they already have everything in their hands. Everything is on the net. With YouTube videos, they can access everything. Okay, so they need continuous learning and development by the help of these tools. They want to learn actively and they should be prepared for life. And they also want independent learning. These people like it very much, okay? And the pandemic burst out, so as an impact of pandemic, we started to look for new solutions. So let's look at before pandemic, we were teaching in a traditional classroom. What was the common thing? Students listen to a lecture or watch a presentation. They sometimes watch videos, they do some demonstration, they work in groups and leave the class. And the teacher presents any new topic to these students face-to-face in the classroom. They assign a kind of homework to reinforce their learning. And usually the theoretical knowledge is given in the classroom, but this is a limited time for practice. They don't usually have time to practice it. This is a great loss for these students. And the methodology is usually teacher-centered in traditional way of teaching. Okay, when flipped classroom came, okay, these two elements swapped, okay? Homework became the first element, first step in learning something new, and it is assigned before classroom, okay? So online course content is delivered to students before face-to-face teaching, before they come to classroom. So they are ready for the classroom, and mostly videos are used for this aim, or they are assigned to do some research or read some documents that the teachers share with them. And they come to class by acquiring the theoretical knowledge at home, and they apply, analyze, synthesize it in the classroom. This is a great, this is something very good for their learning. Okay, and students have time to question and answer, discuss, or use other active learning strategies in the classroom. So there is more time allocated for activities that develop their higher order thinking skills like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving in the classroom. Okay, this model is flipped classroom is pioneered and popularized by Bergman and Sams. They say it like this: it is which is traditional done in class is now done at home, and that which is traditional done as homework is now completed in class. So what happens? This enhances students' understanding of the main ideas and information through some multimedia resources. And what are the gains for students? More active involvement, independent learning, okay, they like it, and learners take responsibility for their own learning at their own pace of studying, and personalization of learning and learning autonomy are supported in this model. And also they can have time in the classroom to work in pairs, so they independently get prepared for class alone, at home, and they come to class, and this time they work in groups and teams and they do collaborative learning, and they work on some projects, okay, in conversations, discussions, they do something together, and peer-to-peer learning takes place. So they can do debates, they can share, solve problems. This increases as the research studies indicate, their self-confidence and self-esteem. And also this enhances their teachers' motivation, and also students' creativeness, critical thinking skill development, and it increases their performance and what improves or develops their communication skills. Also, it is a learner-centered learning, yes, and there is cooperative learning, peer mentoring, peer-assisted learning, and there is problem-based learning. So these all make students feel much better and their stress in the classroom lowers, okay? And this is very important, as you know, for foreign language learning, because anxiety is one of the threats of learning a foreign language, okay? This flipped learning is also used in English language teaching or foreign language teaching because it increases students' foreign language higher order thinking skills, their engagement and satisfaction. It provides a warm-up for in-class teaching and leads to better learning outcomes and better learning attitudes of our students. Yes, these are all taken from the research studies. I will give you the references later. When we look at flipped vocabulary learning studies, there are many, especially for vocabulary. I just wanted to give you 2 examples. Students in the flipped classroom got better test scores than those in the traditional classroom, and they mastered new vocabulary in a more engaging way. And also they performed in another study significantly better in the test of receptive and productive vocabulary than if compared to the traditional way of teaching vocabulary. When we come to grammar learning, Norazi et al. Made a study on 60 EFL learners and he measured their development of conditional sentences. And the study reported that there is a significant improvement in learning and retention of conditional sentences. And also in another study, flipped learning had a positive impact on students' understanding and use of English grammar. When we come to writing skill, in 2 studies, as you see here, this flipped learning increased students' learning motivation. Motivation is a very important construct, let's say, for learning because it explains, this variable explains 80% of learning. So this model increases learning motivation and learning autonomy in an EFL writing course. And also in another study, it was reported that the students improved their writing proficiency more than a traditional writing classroom. If you come to the listening, teaching listening, yes, flipped classroom enhanced pre-university students' English listening skills by a study by Rod and I cannot pronounce his name, Sapasetsriri. Okay, the study of Etematfar also studied on listening skills development, and the study revealed that significant differences in learning English listening comprehension and critical thinking skills of the students. Okay, you can find all the procedures, how they applied listening, writing, grammar, vocabulary. In these studies, they are all told. I'm going to share these studies at the end of my presentation. And flip reading, yes, in another study by Ahmet Bashal, he is a colleague, I'm working with him as well. He found that pre-service English teachers had positive attitudes towards the use of flipped classroom in advanced reading and writing lessons in terms of 4 categories. One is learning at one's own pace, advanced student preparation for the class, and overcoming the limitations of class time and increase in the participation of lesson. These are all important things that help the development of reading and writing skills, yes. And finally, when we come to flipped speaking, another researcher examined the effects of flipped instruction on EFL learning speaking, complexity, accuracy, and fluency, and they reported that these researchers, the flipped classroom significantly outperformed the traditional classroom on the post-test they implemented. So this was a very quick, because I have limited time, I wanted to present you very quickly in this limited time these studies. So in English language teaching, if we use the flipped classroom model, we can see that it is very beneficial both for the teacher and also the students. So if you would like to access to these studies, here are their names. You can access and see how these researchers implemented flipped classroom for grammar, teaching grammar, vocabulary, and for the development of 4 skills. Yeah, I hope you can get a screenshot of this page, this screen. So I am very proud to be here again. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Professor Meltem Hooray Batouré, for this insightful presentation. I kindly invite all the participants from the other sessions to write their questions in the chat box in order to have a smooth and fruitful discussion later on. We are honored to have Professor Mohamed Saleh Nejjai from Batna II University with us today. Let me first please introduce Professor Nejjai. So Professor Nejjai received his MAD and PhD degrees from Bath University, England. He also received an MA degree in translation from Batna University, Algeria. His fields of interests include educational sciences, TEFL, and research methodology. Professor Nejjai was a former president of the Scientific Board of Faculty of Letters and Foreign Languages at Batna II University, a former rector of Batna University, president of a research team in the Laboratory of Language and Culture Studies, and a former president of the Scientific, Pedagogic, and Cultural Board of Higher National Commission of Berber Studies. He is currently a professor of English at the Department of English at Batna II University and a visiting teacher at Skikda, Tebessa, Bouaqi, Khanshla, and Béjaïa universities. Professor Nejjai's presentation is entitled Aspects of Blended Learning in Foreign Language Education. Professor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, yes, a second to fix it.
And the laptop is not mine.
Okay, just a second.
Ah.
What did you do? Hello? Ah, what did you do? A second. Try to fix. Okay. Yes. Presentation of the. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Make it. Just a second. Make it panoramic. Full screen. Yes. Yes. Yeah. We start. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Good morning again, and welcome to everybody. Thank you, Lady Malek. Of course, I share the honor. And as you have seen, I'm between two ladies to manipulate all that is technology. Aspects of blended learning in foreign language education, and I concentrate on the word aspects. So I'm going to focus on just a few aspects, but it sounds very impossible to cover them all, since this new aspect of education, and probably considered as a new approach in teaching, is so wide that it is quite impossible to cover all its features in one 10-minute or 15-minute presentation. And I'm starting with a few definitions found in the literature relevant to the topic. It is, of course, a combination of two modes, and this is why we add the concept of hybridity. It is a face-to-face instruction using the computer. It integrates traditional methodologies with what is commonly seen as new modes of teaching and new devices, of course. And it is almost any combination of technologies, pedagogies, ways, manners, and so on and so forth that include teaching. However, anytime we have different perceptions stemming out from different research results to suggest more than one definition, we need working out a compromise that stands as a common working definition. So I would simply say that it is any time two or more ways of doing something are brought together. And I know that I'm not teaching a lot, but I'm trying just to give you hints used later on to initiate discussion and debate, which are more important than the presentation itself. So we have what we call call, MAUL, and these are just two examples because many other online models are there and widely and even extensively used in the teaching learning process. It is hence bringing education and educational technology together to obtain that new concept, which we call nowadays hybridity. And this hybridity that led to a somehow more flexible form of learning was a response to the new needs that appeared recently in the field of foreign language education. Blended learning henceforth was there to enhance learning under condition that two factors are considered: anywhere, anytime. And this is perhaps what is truly new. Decades ago, we had to be all together in the same premise, in the same place, to be able to teach and for learners to be able to learn. It has turned into a more flexible conception to give the possibility to learners to learn from wherever they are, and to teachers to teach from the place they are. Go ahead. Blended learning stands then as quite an interesting solution, and the explanation is that it is difficult to develop an appropriate learning context for all of the learners. Blended learning, hence, as an approach, assists a flexible possibility of teaching and learning, a solution that is very interactive. It sounds or it looks like a more motivating approach, and it is probably more inspiring because it gives both teachers and learners the possibility to do something new, to innovate, and to create. Henceforth, it widens the perspective of learning as well as that of teaching. In the many other aspects, we can mention attention-grabbing content, the engagement of students, which is more active and interactive at the same time, and it also suggests other elements of teaching and learning, wherein there is no need to name them all. The flipped classroom model is one example. It initiates and it enhances class discussions, group work, and it probably delivers more insights related to higher order thinking. And I concentrate on thinking. I believe it is indeed a way of inviting people to think more on themselves and by themselves, without having all the time someone to act as a leader. Henceforth, we give more possibility and chance to the thinker to think. Its primary concept is, of course, the online relation and work, the individual rotation model. It is perhaps a unique educational pathway. What examples are there, like the flex model, what we also call the a la carte model that is known to everybody, and that comes as a response to a question. Tell me what you want to learn, and I'll teach you what you want to learn. Other elements are like gamifying lessons, self-directed learning, and collaboration that is not really a new concept, but it is given the chance to be there whenever we need it and anytime we need it. This is why I have said at the beginning that anywhere, anytime are perhaps the two new concepts introduced in online learning. Differentiated instruction is also part of the game, because as long as learners are different individuals, they will certainly use the chance and take the benefit from acting as individuals. Distance learning needs not being explained furthermore. And the two, that is variety and distance learning, are perhaps there to fulfill objectives that we could not fulfill with the classical approaches and methods. This picture will probably summarize more than what I have explained, in that it represents a learner, whatever his age, facing the many possibilities and the very wide range of learning possibilities. And it could range from the award, the globalization, the need to always try to do better and better, and to refine his mode of learning, and to increase his knowledge, and to perhaps concentrate on all the factors and elements that act at the same time in that new process of learning. However, to attain these objectives, it sounds, at least to me, that it is not that simple to envision and foresee the possibilities of proving successful in this new mode of learning. It certainly increases the learning potential. It is probably a chance given to learners to be more creative. It fosters problem solving. It is very collaborative, and it develops creative and critical thinking. Henceforth, technology as part of the equation has to be there. And without all these variables, it would sound to me that it is quite impossible to think of any success. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What I was saying and the core point I am making is that anytime we target an objective, we should gather together all means and all possibilities to prove successful. Thank you again.
Thank you. You are welcome, Professor. Thank you for your informative presentation.
Thank you.
Now we move to the next presenter, Dr. Sarali Ginsberg. Yes, Sarali Ginsberg, Dr. Sarali Ginsberg is a researcher at the Institute for Culture and Society, University of Navarra, and a former Marie Curie Fellow, 2017-2019. She received her PhD degree in education from Tilburg University. Tilburg University, in 2014. Leek Phil Arabic Language and Islamic Studies from the University of Helsinki. Her MA in Arabic Philology from St. Petersburg State University. Sarali worked as a lecturer of cross-cultural and global studies at UHCL at the United States. Currently, she is the PI of My Europe, ICS 2022, and the national coordinator of European Commission Erasmus Committed. Dr. Sarali, are you here with us?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Sarali, it's a great honor and pleasure to meet you today and to have you among us. Please, the floor is yours. You can start.
أصدقائي الأعزاء، زملائي الأعزاء، أنا اسمي سارلي جينزبورغ، أنا مستعربة. تخرجت من جامعة بطرسبورغ الدولية منذ سنين، وهناك قرأت اللغة العربية الفصحى والأدب العربي، واليوم سوف أتكلم عن تاريخ تعليم اللغة العربية في روسيا لغير الناطقين بهذه اللغة، وحضرت الباوربوينت نتاعي باللغة الإنجليزية. Okay, so I will start with the history of teaching Arabic language in my country. And it goes back all the way to the times of Peter the Great, which is the very beginning of the 18th century, when the Russian Emperor ordered translation of the Quran into Russian language. And although it was done not directly from Arabic language, but from French, it is registered as the first official contact between the two cultures. Also during this time, I'm again referring to the beginning of the 18th century, the Russian Imperial Printing House started to use the Arabic letters, Arabic alphabet for printing documents. Then when it comes to organized academic activities and offering classes, organized
Excuse me, Dr. Sarali.
Yes?
The slides are not moving.
But I'm not moving any slides at the moment.
Okay, yeah. Would you please make it full screen?
It is full screen.
Not yet. Yeah.
Because I'm playing it.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, let me, because it says that my screen sharing is paused. I can stop sharing and then...
No, it's okay. It's shared, but it's not full screen. But there's no problem if you,
Let me do it again because...
Okay.
Okay.
Now it is.
Now it is, yes. Now it is. It is full screen. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
Okay.
No, I just probably, before I continue, I wanted to say that my background is completely different. So I won't be talking much about blended learning. So please consider my presentation more as a sort of entertainment than more than anything else. So back to the history of teaching and learning Arabic in Russia. The organized academic activities in terms of offering language as a subject started in St. Petersburg in 1810, when they organized the so-called Asian Museum, which was a collection of Arabic manuscripts, medieval Arabic manuscripts. And also the museum started to offer courses of standard or classical Arabic language. Then the Asian Museum was merged with the Faculty of Oriental Languages, which became part of the St. Petersburg Imperial University in 1854. Then next was Moscow, when the government decided to open the so-called Lazarev Institute in 1872. Again, it was the first attempt in the history to offer organized academic classes of Arabic language for those who wanted to learn it. And then in Kazan, but Kazan is a different thing because Kazan is in Tatarstan, and historical, and I will talk about this slightly later. Interest in Arabic language was great because the population of Tatarstan has always been Muslim. So in Kazan, they started to teach Arabic in 1822. As all of you, of course, know, learning and teaching any language is a great challenge. But when you think about learning Arabic as a language, it's, I think, one of the biggest challenges because we have so many things to consider. Learning the alphabet, which is completely different for those who don't belong to the Arab world or the Muslim world. Then the grammar, which is very different, pronunciation, many other things. But still, there are other considerations. What is the purpose of teaching Arabic? And we can divide it roughly into two categories. One would be what I called Islamic studies, but here I refer to mostly Muslim population of Russia, not only Russia, any other country, who would like to learn Arabic for the religious purpose, to maintain the contact with the religion. And it's different, and it's been historically offered either by the mosques or by madrasas, as we call them in Russia, and it covers a separate subject. Or Arabic can also be offered as a language which is part of academic studies. And then also the question would be, is Arabic a part of religious studies if someone decides to become an expert in Islam, or maybe comparative religions, that Arabic would be studied from one perspective? Then if Arabic is part of the Arabic studies, if someone would like to become an expert in, say, the Arab world, Arab literature, Arabic language, it's different. And then finally, Arabic is part of applied studies, which I think is the most challenging thing, because Arabic is very difficult to learn if it's taken out of its cultural, religious, and literary context. Teaching methodology. As I said, blended learning is not yet part of teaching and learning Arabic, even despite the pandemics. So there are two major schools of Arabic studies in Russia. One is Moscow School, which is more applied, where the students are taught so that they could learn how to actually speak the language, but then they are offered less classes of, say, history, literature, and so on. And then Leningrad or St. Petersburg School of Arabic Studies, where the applied side is combined with the so-called academic approach. More hours are given to specific subjects like literature, literary translation, philosophical text, historical text, reading medieval manuscripts, and so on. And then the rest of the universities that function, say, in Russia or in the former Soviet Union, follow either one of the above schools. So I already mentioned the challenges that a regular student who would like to learn Arabic is supposed to face from the very beginning, and how these challenges are tackled in the Russian context or Russian methodological approach. So this is just a page with the Arabic alphabet. So in 1 week, the first year student is supposed to get acquainted with the alphabet, and you see that it involves learning how to write, say, the separate letter, and also the letter in the beginning of the word, and then in the middle of the word, and then in the end of the word. And then this table also offered some tips on how to pronounce the letter, and then finally the name of the letter. All this information comes during the first week. And then, of course, writing drills. I see that now online they offer some online exercises, but I think that when it comes again to Arabic language, it's really about writing it with your pen. And this is how you master it with time. Then usually once the alphabet is more or less dealt with, it is turned to start learning classical Arabic and then also standard Arabic. And here just an example for you. This is what I was doing when I was a student. We start with reading medieval texts in Arabic language. The first texts that we are given are usually very simple one. You see that there are diacritic signs, because again, one of the challenges of learning Arabic language for those for whom Arabic language is not native is to learn not only how to read, but also how to learn the grammar, because without knowing the grammar, you can't read the text. And so you see the use of harakat, so that with time, by reading these proverbs, you start to identify different parts of the sentence, and then by the end of the first semester, you can already read more difficult, more complex text, and then you don't need the harakat. I still remember when I was a student, the first proverbs, عَلَمٌ بِلَا عَمَلٍ كَسَحَابٍ بِلَا مَطَرٍ. This is how you learn it. Then next to it, of course, comes standard Arabic, which starts with phonetics and also grammar, because even when you learn the alphabet, you are supposed to know how to pronounce Arabic letters correctly. And the phonetics of Arabic language is very different from what we are used to in the West, in Russian or English or French or Spanish language. So again, it's a new challenge. Here, of course, technologies are very useful. So you can, at least now online, you can go to YouTube and find the Arabic alphabet and then listen and try to understand how these sounds are being produced. I myself, personally speaking, I've always been very bad at it. This is an example for you, the explanation how to pronounce the letter Kha. And then you have your typical image of our articulation apparatus, but then I could never figure how to do that. So my solution was always to go somewhere and just ask someone, a native speaker probably, to repeat it for me. And then with time, you learn how to do that. All right. Then together with phonetics goes grammar, for example, some verbs and how to conjugate them, and the most basic phrases like this one, man jadda wajada. And this is how you start to understand the structure of the sentence in standard and also classical Arabic. One more challenge, to learn how to read and how to speak in the standard Arabic, having in mind that standard Arabic is actually, no one speaks it as a native language. People speak dialects. So it's very difficult to practice it. I'm referring to the speaking practice. And so we use a sort of short conversational course where each conversation is dedicated to a particular topic. And then sentences are very short and very easy to understand. Usually such conversations have a bit of humor in it, so that the students understand the humor and then memorize the structure and also the words. But as I said again, the process of practicing speaking skills in Standard Arabic are, I think, one of the biggest challenges for those who are learning Arabic language, because unlike this is the case with English or with Spanish or with French language, it's very difficult to find a way to practice it. If reading, you can practice while reading it, how can you practice speaking? Usually by year 3, year 4, the students start to realize that even if you master Standard Arabic, and I'm referring to the modern variety of Arabic, in order to communicate, you need to learn a dialect. And then in the Russian context, the choice of dialects is not very wide, but I think this is also typical for other cultures. So we are often offered to pick up the Egyptian dialect of Arabic, and this makes a lot of sense because Egyptian dialect is understood everywhere in the Arab world. And then you can watch movies, you can listen to songs, and do many other things. And also, Russian students are often sent to the University of Cairo for 1-year exchange. And somehow, this is how we start to really to speak Arabic language in the full sense of the word to speak, not only to understand. Often the Syrian dialect of Arabic language, which is also interesting because if you speak the Syrian dialect, and of course the audience knows it very well, then you can easily communicate with people from the Sham countries. And then also the Algerian dialect, because Russia and Algeria have a very long-standing relationship, both in terms of culture and exchange and in terms of education. And just an example for you how a typical manual of Algerian Arabic is organized, just a scan of a picture. So you see that here is, for example, a brief explanation of how to conjugate the Algerian verb, the regular verb, how it is different from what we know in Standard Arabic. Also some cultural context, the varieties of bread in Algeria, so that you can understand what it's like. And then varieties of jams, so you can have a short discussion about food. And then there will be some proverbs and some text in Algerian Arabic. This also, of course, having in mind that people in Algeria speak differently. And as I said, multimedia is very important because in the end, this is the way when you have at least a very low, but still some knowledge of Arabic language. These days you can go online and you can watch. So you can watch movies, you can listen to the news, you can find a sort of course for beginners, you can improve your pronunciation skills, and so on and so forth. And this is just an example for you. This comes from non-native speakers of Arabic language who offer a course for beginners. Just okay, and then my window has disappeared.
السلام عليكم. وعليكم السلام. ممكن أجلس هنا؟ كيف حالك يا أخي؟ الحمد لله بخير. وكيف حالك أنت؟ الحمد لله أنا أيضا بخير. ممكن أن نتعرف؟ ممكن. اسمي خسو، ما اسمك يا أخي؟ اسمي سيف الله. أهلا بك. أهلا بك. من أين أنت يا سيف الله؟ أنا من...
Okay, so there are plenty of such courses, and then, as I said, now it is so much easier to improve your speaking skills. But this was not the case when I was a student. When I was preparing my presentation, I spoke to those of my colleagues who are now involved in teaching Arabic language, but they confirmed to me that during the pandemics, even though everyone was supposed, I would say forced to give classes online, somehow everyone agrees that when it comes at least to Arabic language, the level of knowledge and the progress of the students has dropped down dramatically. And then we as teachers of Arabic, or those who are involved in the world of the Arabic language, agree on the fact that some languages should still be taught in person. And thank you, I finished.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarali Ginsberg, for this exceptional and very interesting presentation. We would like to move to Dr. Hassan Salkane. In fact, we're honored to have him with us today. Dr. Salkane is from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. He is a linguist discourse analyst and a corpus-assisted discourse analyst. He received his PhD in discourse analysis, corpus-assisted discourse studies from the University of Navarra, Spain. He is currently working as a postdoctorate research at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. He authored a chapter book on populism and popularity in Imran Khan 2018 election speeches in a book entitled Politics and Populism Across Modes and Media. So the presentation of Dr. Salkane is entitled Teachers' Attitude Towards Virtual Teaching and Learning Process During COVID-19 Pandemic in Pakistan. Dr. Salkane, I kindly invite you, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Salkane. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, very well.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm Dr. Salkane Hassan from Norwegian University of Science and Technology. My topic today is teachers' attitude towards virtual teaching and learning process during COVID-19 pandemic in Pakistan. So, okay. So as all of you may know, pandemic and has largely affected the world. But today, I'm going to discuss on the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on the education sector in Pakistan. According to the reports of UNICEF, billions or millions of school-going, college-going, and university-going children got affected from the COVID-19 lockdown, and especially in Pakistan, we had a lot of lockdowns and smart lockdowns, and students were trapped inside their houses, and so is the teachers. And I was also teaching at that time in Pakistan, and I was also trapped in my house. But there were different issues with when you go online suddenly, especially in the developing countries, you will face a lot of issues. And the same happened in I think all the developing countries, according to the report of UNICEF. There were different factors and issues behind these problems that teachers faced in the developing countries. And especially this pandemic exposed the education sector in all these developing countries, especially in Pakistan, because our teachers were not trained, they were not ready for that thing. And suddenly they were asked to go for it, and nobody was nobody was ready to accept these responsibilities to teach online. Took some time to adjust. There were issues, but okay, they got some help from their peers, maybe some students, and they accepted the responsibility and went online. And in Pakistan, yes, according to the study of Nisar and Hamid, it is a recent study conducted in Pakistan. According to them, there were some issues, and the big issue was the proper training and distance education of teachers, and of course, the existing traditional methodology of teaching. The chalk and blackboard teaching methodology in Pakistan. It affected teachers' mentality and, of course, their situation in that time. So that is why that took some time. So my current study aims to understand the behavior of ask the teachers about that time So before, when I was thinking to design the study, I had two research questions in my mind. How do the teachers use of digital mediums during the COVID pandemic? Pandemic experience of using digital mediums help them in the future. What was their first reactions when they heard about online teaching and online virtual teaching, and what did they learn will help them in future. What they learned during the COVID pandemic and during the online or virtual teaching. So for this purpose, I designed a study of questionnaires. I distributed some questionnaires among 20 university teachers. I selected 3 universities because it was Ramadan. I'm on vacation for Eid. So I came here in Ramadan, so I distributed some 20 questionnaires among the university teachers here in my province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and I received 17 of them, and their own choice. So here we speak usually 3 languages. We speak and write in 3 languages: English, Pashto, and Urdu. So I gave them an opportunity to write in the language of their own choice, and everybody was a written consent was taken from everybody. Okay, so there were 6 questionnaires, 6 questions in my questionnaire, both close-ended and open-ended questions. So the first question was to know about their expertise in using digital mediums for teaching and learning before COVID-19. So I asked them, I gave them the question, and their responses were, most of the teachers, they had some basic knowledge or no knowledge of using digital mediums or online sources like Zoom, Skype, and Teams, and all those resources for teaching. Maybe they haven't done online virtual teaching before. So most of the teachers, like 14 out of 17 responses, they had no knowledge or maybe some basic knowledge of using Zoom and all these online applications for virtual teaching. The next question was, so I asked them that did they use any of these online applications for teaching and learning process during COVID-19 pandemic? And yes, most of the teachers, they used it. Like 17 out of 17, they used any one of the online applications for virtual teaching during the COVID pandemic in Pakistan. My third question was about, I asked them to write about their experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic. And here are the responses. So I'm going to show you first. These were the responses I took from their questionnaires. So a teacher responded, yes, it was a nightmare and a headache, and gave me headaches. Yeah, because in Pakistan, the teachers, they are not, most of the teachers, they are used to the traditional way of teaching and learning process. So for most of them, they didn't know anything about these online apps. It was something new for them. So yeah, they took some time. They made a lot of excuses. I heard from a teacher that we did a lot of excuses to first to learn these things and then to give our lectures on all these things. Another respondent replied, yeah, we were technologically illiterate. Yeah, this is a very interesting comment from one of the teachers, that we were technologically illiterate before COVID-19 pandemic, and now we are, because another respondent said, yeah, now I'm a technology man. Now I am a technologically literate man. So yeah, I got these responses. I selected some responses here because of the lack of much time. I will discuss some of them. So yeah, I shown in the examples in the slides as I have shown you. These are some of the responses I received. They considered online teaching in the first instance as headache, nightmare, hard time because of the lack of knowledge of all those online applications, online apps for using for teaching and learning process. Yeah, and Pakistani education system. Yeah, so I will. Yeah, one thing which I should mention here is the role of attendance in Pakistani education. Because in physical classes, it's very easy to mark student absent or present. But during the pandemic, it was not easy for Pakistani teachers to have a good eye on all the students. So I asked a student here when I was conducting my questionnaire-based study in some of the universities. So I asked the student, and he told me that we did a lot of tricks for bunking our classes. Yeah, and they just came on. We just went online and muted our audio and just bunked the class. So it was a headache for all the teachers to keep an eye on each and every student. So it was an issue for all the teachers because as I told you, attendance is one of the important aspects of Pakistani classes and Pakistani physical classes when they were in physical classes. Yeah, my next question was I asked them to tell me about their agreement or disagreement on the skills of teachers, either these skills improved or not using the digital mediums. So yeah, most of the teachers said that yes, they are agreed that during the pandemic, when they were busy in online classes, yes, they learned something new. They have improved their skills. And now if whenever there will be need again of all these things, they can of course go online and they have learned a lot of new things. Yeah, I asked them that what are the benefits they received from these online teaching learning process during COVID pandemic. And the response, I got responses here, some interesting things. COVID pandemic gave us bad memories, but all those who were unknown to the technology will always remember COVID as a university that introduced them to the technology. Yes, and most of the teacher, I have other responses too, but I didn't mention all of them here because of time. So all of them, they think that during the COVID-19, when they, before the COVID-19, when they were unknown to the technology, but the COVID-19, when they started delivering lectures online, so it gave them something new. The COVID pandemic and all this virtual online teaching and learning process introduced them to something new, to the technology. Yeah, and in Pakistan, of course, the AMS and IMS data sets were considered the best thing that were introduced by the Pakistani Government Higher Education Commission to keep the teacher updated about the daily attendance and task schedules. Because as I told you, that attendance and assignments are the important aspects of Pakistani teaching and learning process. Yeah. So the last question was to know the teachers' expertise after the COVID-19 because now we have physical classes in Pakistan. We don't have any more online classes here. So the physical classes are already started. So now I asked them, the last question was about to tell me about their level of skills now after the post-pandemic. So most of the, so the replies were, the responses were like most of the teachers now, they consider themselves as proficient and expert. Nobody is saying that, no, now my level is basic. If you can see these two figures, so the figure one was the pre-pandemic figure, and the next figure is the post-pandemic figure. So we can see the difference between the skills, the development of skills of the teachers. One of the figure one is showing us the pre-pandemic skills of teachers, and the next figure is the post-pandemic figure. And we can see the difference of skills, the development of skills. Yeah, so there are different things. Initially, the teacher took virtual teaching and online classes, something very much bad, maybe very much. They were thinking that it will require a lot of efforts. But when they learn the things, yeah, so now they considered it is a blessing. They learned a lot of new things, a lot of the skills are developed. Yes, they were not happy about some of the aspects of online teaching and learning process because of there were some issues with the student attendance, on-time assignments, and all those things. And of course, the study has clearly found a deviation in the knowledge of using digital means for virtual teaching before and after the COVID pandemic, as I have shown you in the figure 1 and figure 4. So these are the references. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, you can ask me through my emails, official email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saklin. Thank you for your fruitful presentation. Yes, it was a great pleasure, and it is always great pleasure and honor to have you among us today. Yes, we move now to the discussion. Yes, for those, I invite participants to ask their questions. We have some written questions here. Yes. We start with Professor Melton. We have a question, yes, or two questions asked by Fatma Fattoumi from Tunisia. Yes, Fatma, do you want to ask the questions by yourself?
Yes, please, if
yes,
you can hear me.
But briefly, please, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Fatma,
so
yes, you ask one question. Excuse me, Fatma. I think you have two questions for Professor Melton, and you have one question for Dr. Sarali. That's it?
Yes.
Yeah, please, you ask your questions, and you are welcome with us.
Thank you.
Dr. Fatma Fattoumi from Tunisia. Yes.
So for Dr. Sarali, how can students learning Arabic face the challenge of understanding how to use digital tools that are designed in English, especially when their English language level is not advanced? Concerning the other questions, I can't see them, but I can remember what I've said. So for
Melton,
yes,
for Melton, not of it. I can read that if you can remember.
Yes, you can read them, please.
Okay. Do you want me to start with? Can I start with my question? Because
yes, you can start, Professor Melton. Yeah.
Okay. You asked that how can teachers decide which tool fits for a specific teaching activity? I really like this question. This is a very smart question. Okay, thanks, Fatma, for it. First, as educational technologists, we start any initiative, any project, okay? We can call this a project, okay? We can call this an initiative. We first analyze the situation, okay? We first analyze the target people, what they need, what they expect, okay, what are their requirements, what are their tendencies, okay, what kind of things they want from us. Also, we analyze the circumstances, what we have in hand, what kind of tools can we assess. So this shows us the data we collect from them. You can deliver some surveys, you can ask them some open-ended questions, or you can interview them. But this is, of course, not always a research situation. So what you would do, if you're a teacher, okay, practitioner, you just observe them in the classroom, okay? You ask them, okay, but whatever you do, how you collect data, please, it is up to your situation, okay? But gather data, learn this, their expectations, their needs of the target people, your students, and then you decide, also the content you teach is very important, and then you decide what tools you can ask them to use in that activity, okay? So this, let's say, this will affect your choice of the digital tool, then it will fit well, because we do that. Is it clear?
Yes, yes, that's a good answer. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yes, Dr. Sarali, yes, you have, yes.
Okay, so
A question from Fatima Ftomi, yes, from Tunisia, yes?
yeah, I remember the question. I think I can answer it quite easily. First of all, I would say that the level of English of students who are learning Arabic is usually quite high. So it's usually advanced, but this is not the issue. We have digital tools that are in Russian, so it's not a problem. It's just that maybe you decided from the screenshots that I was showing on the screen that it's all in English, but this is only because I live in Spain. And my laptop is in English language.
Yeah.
There is no such problem. And from what I know, there are plenty of digital tools and channels and other things that exist in Russian language.
We have another question for you from Dr. Milud Bakar. Okay. Yes, Dr. Milud Bakar, are you here? Would you like to ask the question, or I read it for you?
I can say it again.
Please, quickly, yeah. Briefly, please. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, okay, what kind of people in Russia are interested in learning Arabic?
Okay, there are many. Thank you very much for the question. I would say that there are many different kinds of people like me, who decided to become Arabists because of general interest in the Arab culture. People who are of Muslim background, for example, Tatars, Uzbeks, Tajiks, and so on and so forth. We also have plenty of people who are half Arab. That is also very common. And then I had students myself who were half Algerians or half Moroccans or half Syrian and so on. And of course, there are also people who think of Arabic language as part of their future career. If they would like to work for the Ministry of Interior, if they would like to work for the army, of course, they might decide to choose Arabic language.
Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. We have also Dr. Ghadban, who has two questions.
Yeah. I was about to talk about that. I have another question, her second question, so I can reply.
Okay, yeah, of course. The floor is yours, Professor.
Thank you. As dear Fatma asked as the second question, how can we guarantee that both the teacher and the student have the adequate digital literacy to conduct a specific activity? Okay, this digital literacy, okay, this is something very, has two sides, let's say. When it comes to daily technologies, these students are, they are at very, very high level. They can use any technology, and sometimes we are jealous of them because they are digital natives and they can use it perfectly, almost. But when it comes to educational technologies, is it the same? We just made a research study, okay? And we studied on if they can use these education technologies well. It indicated us that they are at average level, okay, of using these technologies. Actually, I think this is related to the education. So we can say that yes, if they like the
Excuse me, Professor Merton, would you please turn or mute your mic, Dr. Bakar? Yeah, you mute your mic. Yeah, thank you. Yes, sorry for the interruption, Professor Merton. Yes, you go on, please.
No problem at all. So when it comes to educational technologies, they are a little bit staying behind, okay, compared to daily technologies. So I say that it is related to their motivation, okay? If you motivate them, if you increase their attention to the lesson, you can use it well. Their digital literacy level is actually, if they like the thing they will work on, it is really high. And when it's also, when we look at the teacher side, some of the teachers, especially the young ones, can use, these technologies well, just like these Z generation students. But when the age increases, it is a little bit low, but because we are, they are digital natives, but we are the older generations, I'm talking about the previous generations, so I'm correcting, is a little bit behind Z generation students if compared. But what is good is that almost all these multimedia tools require lower level of technology use. They are easy to use, okay? So in general, everybody can use these technologies, so we can say that, to recap, their digital literacies are almost enough to conduct or participate in a specific activity. Dear Fatma, thanks for this question as well.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Professor. Now I invite Dr. Ghazban to ask her 2 questions briefly, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for this webinar, Dr. Ahlalat, the president of this webinar. And the question is addressed to Professor Jai for his outstanding, of course, presentation as usual. In your presentation, Professor Jai, I, of course, detected something to ask about it. Do you think that technologies, I mean ICTs or methodologies, instructions, computers assisted learning are types of blended learning modes, or they can be just supporting elements for the success of blended learning environment? Because we cannot blend any, of course, 2 modes without the integration, either implicitly or explicitly, these technologies, methodologies, and especially computers.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening and giving me the chance to ask.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Nasera, yes, Professor? Yes.
Thank you, dear Nasera. As we all know, blended learning has always existed. In that it means that we bring 2 ways of doing one thing together. The inclusion of technology has modified it to give us the possibility to do the same work from any place and at any time. This is the only role the technological devices have introduced in any form of learning. But it has always been blended. It's just like blended coffee. So, to successfully introduce technology, you have to have 2 things. First, all the needed technological devices and the needed knowledge to properly manipulate them. So it is still hybridity, but perhaps with more flexibility. Because you're not bound to be in one specific place and to have your learners facing you. They could be in China and you teaching them from Russia or Turkey or from anywhere. This is the only possibility offered by technology. And to have technology, you have to have the budget for technology. And to have people to manipulate technology, you have to teach them how. If you take my example, I can say things in this new technological globalized world. But if I do not have a person to assist me, I'm not going to.
I'm lost.
I will be simply lost. Thank you. So I agree with you.
Thank you, Professor, for this.
You're welcome, dear
course.
colleague.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for everybody. Thank you, key speakers who honored us today and contributed to animate this session of the first session of this plenary. Yes, I think we stop here the first session of the plenary, and we invite Professor Kiskes. Are you there? I think we don't have more questions here. Yes? No, thank you.
Here you go.
I had a, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Susan asked a question about the skills, which type of skills are improved.
Yeah. I have, yes,
Yeah.
a question from Suzanne or Susan, yes. Would you please ask, I'm sorry, Dr. Saklin. Thank you for your help.
It's okay.
Thank you for your
That's
help.
fine,
Yes,
okay.
thank you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
We do not.
Okay, I invite her first to ask maybe her question only if she wants. Otherwise, you read it. Yeah, Susan or Suzanne, are you there? No. Yeah, Dr. Dr. Saklin. Yes, would you please answer the question?
So
Yes, the floor is yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so she asked about which type of skills are improved during the COVID pandemic. As I told you, as professor identified the inclusion of technology with the traditional way of teaching. So in Pakistan, most of the teachers, they were used to a traditional way of teaching things. So the skill of using the technology and learning as we do it in blended learning. Yeah, so it happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. The teachers, they try to understand how to use the online apps for teaching, how to make good PowerPoint presentations and all those things. So the skills of using technology being improved during the COVID pandemic. So I hope Suzanne would understand this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saklin, for your brief answer, concise and precise. Yes, and now, as I have said, I would like to thank all the keynote speakers of the first session of this plenary, starting by Professor Milton, who honored us from Turkey, Professor Najai from Batnatu, Dr. Sarali from Russia, and Dr. Saklin from University of Norway. Yeah, and now I invite Professor Said Kiskes, yes, to be the moderator of the next or the second session of this plenary. Yes, the floor is yours, Professor. We can't hear you, sir. Yeah.
You hear me now?
Hardly.
You hear me?
Yeah, no. Hardly.
No.
Yeah.
What can I do?
You just try to fix your mic, maybe. Maybe your phone. You have someone else with you who is connected.
I am connected, okay? Everything seems to be all right here, at least on my screen. Can you hear me?
Now it's okay. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Now it's perfect, yeah.
I have to get closer to the screen of my computer.
Yeah.
Maybe in this way, each one of you can hear me. Really pleased and honored, okay, to have been appointed as the...
yes, we can hear you, Professor Kiskes from the University of Sétif. Yes, we can hear you very well, yes.
Thank you very much. Really honored to have been appointed as the chair of the second plenary session, during which we have three speakers normally. We have Professor Ruth Breeze, University of Navarra, Spain.
Yeah.
A presentation entitled Blended Learning English for Law and English for Media Communication. The second presentation is going to be delivered by Professor Dr. Hashmi Abubu from Batnatu University, entitled Blended Learning Models, a Magic Solution to Western World Education, or a Tragic Journey of Backwardness to Third World Countries' Educational System. What a title. There is a third presenter, Dr. Leila Najah Balkhairi from Gabas University, Tunisia, entitled Online Learning Strategies Used by Students of English Language in Tunisia During the COVID-19 Pandemic. Let me just state the rule, okay, from the outset. Each one is going, okay, to take 15 minutes, and I will not let you overtake. And then, when the presentation are over, we leave the, we leave the debate to start. Thank you very much. I would like to see Professor Ruth Breeze begin her presentation. Thank you, Professor. The floor is yours.
Hello. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to try to share my screen with you. There's a terrible noise in the background. Maybe somebody has their microphone on.
Yeah, Professor Kiskas, would you please mute your mic?
Yes, of course.
Yes, Professor Ruth, would you please turn your mic on?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was just a little bit confusing, but I think the sound is okay now. Yeah?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. And there's no echo.
Okay.
All right. Well, my talk today is not very long, and what I'm going to do, because I think we are all very interested in blended learning because of our experiences over the last 2 or 3 years, is just explain 1 or 2 ideas that we've used in our university to try to take advantage of blended learning, to do things that it's not so easy to do in the classroom, but that you can do better when you have students working outside at their own speed, at their own pace, and sharing information and reading what each other have done and things like that. So it's not so much a clearly top-down programmed blended learning experience, more activities and tasks that take advantage of the fact that students don't have to be in the classroom synchronously working together, but can work together in a more diffuse way and can use different resources that there are online in order to write and think and reflect on their learning. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 2 activities that we've done, one in a course I teach, which is in English for Law, and another one in a course which is for English for Media and Communication in journalism school. Okay, I think blended learning, blending, what is that? This has always been an interesting topic, and I think in this conference I don't need to say to you that it's basically a combination of remote and face-to-face learning, that the tasks that you do remotely should have relevance for the class and for the teachers and for the students and be integrated into the program of learning, but they can't be done synchronously, or don't have to be done synchronously, and they don't have to be done all in the same way. They should be somehow given a structure, and students have to be given support to do those tasks, and then they should be, the results of the task can be shared with the other learners, and they have to receive feedback on them. But it doesn't always have to be done everything at the same time or in the same way. The pandemic obviously made everyone much more aware of the need for blended learning as a mixture. And it made us also very aware that teachers have to learn how to do this, and that students also have to learn how to do it. And teachers need to learn to structure the remote tasks in an intelligent, user-friendly way so that they're interesting and rewarding for the learner, and so that the tasks that are done remotely add something to the learning experience. So I'm going to talk about these 2 courses that I mentioned, about specific tasks that we do on these courses, which are highly appropriate for blended learning. The great thing is you can do them anywhere in the world, and I think they'll be interesting for students in Algeria, students in Pakistan, students in Latin America. All students can do these tasks. That's the beauty of the internet. So let's look at the first one. This is a task that I do very frequently in some courses I teach in the law faculty. And these tasks are rather similar. I'm going to just explain two of them. And the point about these tasks is that you're getting students to use real resources in which they have to apply their knowledge of legal vocabulary and their knowledge of the legal culture in order to research and write. Okay, so the first one is that you have a client who wants to set up a business in country X, for example, in Spain. We use the excellent website from the World Bank, which has a series of criteria about how easy it is to set up a business. So the students have to apply their own knowledge about which of these criteria are important. For example, things like how easy it is to rent commercial property, how easy it is to do the paperwork, how expensive to do the paperwork to establish a limited liability company, and so on. And you ask the students to write a memorandum to their boss, providing information about how easy it is and to compare it with other countries. And so this is a nice topic, a nice task that students enjoy doing, and it's really ideal for blended learning, because in the blending part, in the support you give them, you show them the structure of the memorandum, the office memorandum, you show them how to use the website, you show them what criteria they might use to answer this question, and then you set them off to do the task and they can share their answers. This is, for example, the website, and it shows you graphically how easy it is to set up a business, for example, in Finland, and then you can compare it with other countries. And it has explanations of all the different criteria you might need to answer that question. Another one, which I've done quite a lot recently, is using the excellent European Union website from EIGE to find out whether women in your countries experience more inequality and discrimination than in other European countries. So, okay, this is a good task for Europeans. Maybe you have similar websites, or maybe you don't, but you can still research it. And so the idea again is to write an in-house memorandum to the boss, summarizing whether you think gender discrimination is worse in Spain than in other countries. And if you think so, can you ground that on the statistics? And if you think not, can you also base that on statistical information? If you go to this website, you will find that it has an excellent resource and very easy to use, where you can choose different criteria and write a comparison. And students like answering this. They find it interesting because they always have this belief that there is less equality in Spain. And in fact, it's not the case. Spain is around the middle of European countries on this. Okay, so those are the type of blended learning tasks I've been doing in English for Law, which involve knowledge of writing a specific genre, knowledge of legal culture and legal topics and legal vocabulary, and putting it all together in a practical task. Let's go on to media and communication. Writing for international readers is a subject that has had me fascinated for some time, partly because I know how difficult it is to explain local events to people from other countries, right? So what you see here is a picture of the famous San Fermines festival. When you try to explain that festival, which we have here in Pamplona, when you try to explain that festival to people in other countries, they get very confused. They don't understand what it's about. Some of them think it's very cruel. Some of them think it's very sad. Some of them think it's very dangerous or very silly. Yeah? And they don't really understand how it works or why people are so obsessed with it. And so the challenge is to explain something like a local festival or a local scandal or a local event for international readers. And so we have here a newspaper called El País, which is very famous, and it does have an English language edition. And so the question would be, if you were writing for the English language edition of El País, how would you explain the news from your country in a way that people from other countries could actually understand it? Because news is highly complex to understand because it requires a lot of background knowledge, a lot of cultural knowledge, and a lot of linguistic knowledge. So what we do with my students is we get them to find a news story from their own country. I teach a very international group of students. So many of them are Erasmus students from Croatia or from Hong Kong or from Panama, right? And they are learning to write news in English. And so one of my focuses is to get them to write the news in English in a way that an international audience is going to understand it. And so before we start on this, we get a news topic from any country and we think of what kinds of change you need to make in order to make it comprehensible. So obviously you need to explain who the people are, what the places are, what the institutions are, the acronyms. You have to explain the background information because people don't know what's going on. And you have to be more explicit. You have to explain in more detail why this is important, right? And also include images, for example, or maps to help people understand what's going on. So we did this one several years running, okay? And this was, for example, a student from Singapore who was writing about rest pods for university students. It seems very weird to Spanish students. They don't understand why students need a rest pod. And so she had to explain about the rest pods in a way that an international audience was going to understand it. So she has to respect the format of the news article, but she also has to add in explanations to show why this is necessary. And then we post these articles in the course blog, the course forum, and the other students respond. So they respond to this article by saying, I like this article. They say many positive things. Yeah. And did you explain it well? So I like the way the writer did explain the acronyms and didn't assume that the reader knew everything, for example. Whereas not everybody is so positive. So in other cases, for example, this was an article from Spain about the Prime Minister who supposedly has plagiarized part of his doctoral thesis. This was a scandal some years ago, which is basically still running. And the student wrote about this scandal, but maybe he didn't do such a good job explaining all the details because, for example, here, one of the Chinese students commented that the article actually explains why this is happening, but it doesn't explain very important acronyms like PSOE, the Socialist Party. So, for example, that student then had to go back and rewrite the task in a way that was more transparent for people from other countries. So what I've tried to do is make a combination of remote and face-to-face learning. I like to think that my tasks conducted remotely also have relevance for the class and they're well integrated into the program of learning and that they have an appropriate structure. They also are tasks which encourage reflection, which mean that students have to think, process information, reformulate information, and also think for themselves and produce new arguments and draw conclusions, and that they have concrete outcomes in the sense of a written genre, like a memorandum or an article, which students can learn about by writing it. And they have also a purpose. So the news article, for example, is to be read by an audience, and that audience are the other students from other countries who write back, so that the student gets feedback from other people, not just from the teacher. This all fits very well with the higher levels in Bloom's taxonomy, where we know that students are not supposed to be just repeating information, but they should be evaluating information, adding, comparing, distinguishing, looking at who it's intended for, and adapting content for different contexts. So this is my contribution to the Blended Learning Conference. Thank you very much for listening, and I will deal with any questions later on. So thank you very much.
Professor Kskes, we have always a problem with your mic. We can't hear you. Otherwise, I will invite Dr. Mouez to help you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but much noise.
I am the only person in my office.
We can't hear you.
Good morning, all.
Yeah. Would you please, Samia, help Professor Kskes to moderate this session, please? Mr. Kskes, we cannot hear you. Please, would you please fix your mic? Try to increase the volume of your PC or mobile phone or the device you use in order to connect webinar. Hello,
Doctor. Dr. Suhila?
Yeah, just second. We try to fix the problem with Professor Skes. Otherwise, you are going to.
Okay, I'm at your disposal whenever you ask.
Yeah. Thank you, Samia. Without your tremendous efforts, we would not be here today. Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank you again, Samia, the co-president of this conference.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samia. Yes, Professor Skes, have you fixed the problem there? Would you please start speaking?
Okay. I will try to get it back from my smartphone.
Try to deactivate the account and try to activate it again. Maybe to fix, I don't know.
As he is.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah, Samia, would you please, moderate the session?
Okay,
Yes, to present the next, present.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suhila. Please first allow me to express a word of gratitude to the president of this eminent academic event, Dr. Suhila Hlalat. It's my great pleasure to be amongst you all today. I welcome everyone here, eminent professors, respected doctors and colleagues. Good. Now, I invite Professor Dr. Hashmi Abubu in order to present a work which he entitled Blended Learning Models. Before I give you the floor, Professor Hashmi Abubu, let me say a word about you, and words cannot be enough to introduce you, right? Professor Hashmi Abubu is a Fulbright School PhD who got it, or which he got from University of Pennsylvania, USA in 1997. A doctorate from Hajj al-Khadr University, Batnawan, Algeria in 2003, a PhD from the University of Glasgow, Great Britain. Professor Bubu has been assigned in many different responsibilities. He was a doctor of the Intensive Language Teaching Center at Batna University, a director of the Foreign Language Institute at the same university, a vice dean in charge of post-graduation in the Faculty of Letters and Foreign Languages at Batna II University, a president of the Department Scientific Committee, up to date. Now he is a professor at the Faculty of Letters and Foreign Languages at the University of Batna from 2005 up to today. Professor Bubu published a number of articles on various aspects of teaching methodology and the use of technological didactic means in teaching American civilization and British modern history at different universities. He also published a number of articles and books, among which I can list the US diplomatic language used in their involvement in Vietnam from 1953 to 1963. In June 2015, he published a work which he entitled, Does Duplicity Fingerprints All Aspects of American Foreign Policy? He also coordinated and edited English books for the IASC from 2006 till 2012. Professor Dr. Hashmi Abubu, I now invite you to present your work, Blended Learning Models, a Magic Solution to Western world education or a tragic journey of backwardness to third world countries' educational systems. The mic is yours, Professor. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to say a word to Professor Ruth, please. I'd like to thank you for your insightful and interesting presentation. Yeah, because of the technical problem, we forgot to thank her. Yes, and it's a great pleasure and honor to have you today among us, Dr. or Professor Ruth. Yes, Professor Kiskes, have you fixed the problem of sound?
I don't know. I need to check
it's okay.
it.
It's good. Excellent. Perfect.
Excuse me. I am talking from my smartphone. Actually, I am using two devices. I am using
This is perfect device. Keep on
and
this
my
one, please.
smartphone for speaking.
Yeah, keep on this. Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, sorry for interruption, Professor Abubu. Yes, the floor is yours now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is yours, yes.
Yeah, Professor. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, and I thank all the participants from all parts of the world, and I wished I could, express how proud I am, to have the Dr. Soheila Hlalat, who used to be my student, So this is the result, in fact, of all our efforts, and we are at the step of going out from the university, and we left behind us, such I would say doctors and masters, and of a good quality. And Mrs. Hlalat, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
And proud of the organization that you have. You have with your mates.
Of course.
Yes. Yeah. It's just that I myself and the blended learning, as or being a product of public schools, or in Algeria, of course, and almost all of you too. So I'm a very supporter and fond of public school, and that's why when I promised you to definitely try to write a paper, about the main topic. Of course, I found myself a little bit, lost in the middle of all this, and believed that probably this blended learning, belongs to a certain class and certain countries and so on and so forth. But in fact, I got amazed about the possibility to be so efficient and efficient, not only in teaching or learning, but in teaching too, because it's a whole a new horizon that is open before everybody if they wanted to progress, the way the world is progressing, in fact, of education. And, I started trying to figure out the different definitions, from Oxford, from Cambridge, from the, all through the dictionaries, or definitions that are provided in the net. So, of course, so what I did, I was more thinking of these developing countries. Could they hook to such a new way of, a new education, or a new way to educate our students, and particularly at the university, the higher education. So what I did, I went through a bunch of articles, that I collected from different articles that I found in the net, and some of them that I found in different universities, and I tried to see how most of them have tackled.
Just a second. وش صارت كوبا؟
Electricity.
خلاص هاي
It's perfect. It's perfect, Suida.
Okay.
Go
We
ahead.
have a cat here. That's why we try to.
Because there is one of the attendees who is making his mic on. This is why, please mute all your mics.
Okay, no problem. Because we thought there was a cat. Okay, that's why I try to ask those who are responsible on the technical side. Yes, Professor. Yeah. Yeah.
So as I said, I just investigated, most of the or a bunch of periodicals, journals, and published articles, all about the topic itself, or very close to the topic itself. And I figured, that everybody has praised the blended learning, right? I'm trying to, I can't figure the,
Yeah. Yes.
Right, thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
So, as I said, most of the scientific and academic articles published in journals, periodicals, magazines, or put out in the different Google and university internet websites proposed, of course, a great deal of solutions by several researchers in different fields and different ways. And what mattered most to them in common was the, of course, during this pandemic, immediate actions to take in order to avoid a world, in fact, educational catastrophe. So the communication technological tools were the obvious, of course, medicine to cure such a sick educational world. We have observed through a number of selected articles that many of them investigated the eventuality to develop the educational system into an electronic one with the existing efficient ICTs in the world, in the near as well as very far future. So developing countries, and according to an article that I found in the newspaper Le Monde, a French one, which quoted the UNESCO and written, and I'm gonna read it, in French, it says, il est particulièrement important que le monde soutienne les pays en développement par des investissements dans des infrastructures éducatives dignes du XXIe siècle. Il faudra pour cela mobiliser les ressources et l'appui des pays développés. Développés, en particulier en termes d'annulation de la dette, de restructuration et de nouveaux financements. Concernant la fracture numérique en Afrique, l'ampleur de ce défi est évidente. Par exemple, seulement, so hold yourselves, 11% des apprenants d'Afrique, of African, learners have, or sub-Saharan Africa, ont un ordinateur à la maison. So they have a computer, 11% have a computer at home. And à la maison, and 18% ont accès à Internet. Again. And 50, in fact, the world as a whole, it says, alors qu'à l'échelle mondiale, 50% des apprenants ont un ordinateur à la maison et 57% ont accès à Internet. So you see that if they try to urge the universities, to implement such an educational system, they will definitely, fail. Otherwise, we won't be living, to really experience or see that happening in the developing countries. Of course, developed countries, they can go, through it, and they can succeed. Now, how does this blended learning look like in practice? Of course, we figured, again, amongst all these researchers, done between 20 and 22, teachers using blended learning can help students learn anytime, any place, on any path and any pace, using adaptive digital content. And of course, these, again, developing countries, they definitely can't. However, we could, and this is economy, yet again. So most of what they proposed as solutions, after praising, of course, this blended system, is the main problem in the developing countries are, of course, the means that you need and the tools that you need to use. Otherwise, you couldn't implement such a system. And what I wanted to get to myself is that it is something probably praised everywhere. Probably here in Algeria and in Batna. Batna is the 5th university city in Algeria. So it's a very important one. And we have these equipments, we teachers and, at the faculty, at the university, all through, we have all these equipments. But our students, we've been experiencing during this epidemic, this pandemic, we've been experiencing, unbelievable situations where we, our students, many of them did not have, a computer at home. You might probably find a smartphone, but no computer. And the difficulties we met, with this blended, right now, blended, learning was an excellent idea, in fact, and this is what probably a way, to let your students really do the job, do the work themselves, by just sending them, all these lectures and courses and handouts, you know, in the website of the department, and we ask them to get ready to like prepare everything and come to the class for an hour, once probably a week or within 2 weeks. And the result was absolutely not what I expected myself. As I said, we would turn the class into a students' debate, just guided by the teacher. And believe me, there were, you know, of course, many reasons why it didn't work. Not only because they didn't have all this equipment, but you know, it's again the motivation. Would they really be ready for to learn first, you know? And I really fear, you know, such a change, a sudden change, and if this change might occur in the developing countries, again, definitely, as it is well expressed by the UNESCO, you know, the developed countries definitely need to be ready to politically intervene and probably bring solutions, because the solutions are in dollars. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Professor, for your presentation. And indeed, it is very interesting because you have chosen, okay, to tackle the problem from a totally different point of view, instead of speaking maybe, okay, about the advantages or the disadvantages, enumerating the positive aspects and perhaps the negative aspects of blended teaching. You have touched the problem from a strictly political point of view, and your presentation is a plea that is addressed, okay, to the UNESCO, which means very simply, before embarking on a teaching or maybe implementing blended learning or blended teaching, we need first of all and beforehand gather the conditions, okay, for such an enterprise, okay, to make it successful. And really, indeed, I have appreciated your intervention, because it's totally different from what the other, you know, speakers have been developing about the advantages, about how to go about from a purely pedagogical point of view, how to activate the tasks, you know, through the online technique. But you have preferred maybe to embrace the problem from a totally different vision, which is politics. And of course, our country is in need to be helped, perhaps to increase or to make the internet flow better. And only with this condition satisfied, okay, maybe we can dwell into developing, you know, blended learning or online teaching. And then we move to the next speaker. Supposedly is Dr. Layla Najah Belkhair, Doctor of Philosophy. Let me introduce her very briefly. Layla Najah Belkhairi is a Tunisian researcher in Gabes University. She received her PhD degree in classroom discourse analysis from Sfax University in 2020. She has got an MA in political discourse analysis from Anuba University 2012. And currently she is an assistant professor at the Higher Institute for Humanities in Medellin. For 5 years, she has been an English language trainer at the Youth and Science Association of Tunisia. She is interested in discourse analysis and foreign language learning teaching. And of course, she has reported, okay, some of her scientific production, very rich, diversified indeed. And lady, now the floor is yours. You've got 15 minutes, okay, to make your presentation. Thank you. Dr. Najah? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Dr. Najah.
Dr. Aisi, would you please check if Dr. Najah is connected or no? Is with us or no? Yeah.
Oui, bonjour à
Dr.
tous.
Aisi,
Oui,
would you please check
oui, elle est
if
connectée.
Dr. Najah is connected or no?
Oui, elle est connectée.
Is with us or no? Yeah.
Oui, bonjour à
Dr.
tous.
Aisi,
Oui,
would you please check
oui, elle est connectée.
Dr. Najah is connected or no?
Oui, elle est connectée.
Is with us or no?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oui, elle est connectée. Demandez-lui d'activer juste son micro.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Can you hear me?
Oui, elle est connectée. Demandez-lui d'activer juste son micro.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor Keskes, we clearly hear you.
Good. Have you heard what I have said?
No, we have just heard the last two words about asking us whether we can hear you or not.
Sorry to interrupt you, Professor Keskes, but we are looking for Dr. Leila from Tunisia.
Yes, I know. Okay, this is what I have just said. Inviting Dr. Leila Najah Balkhairi from Gabas University to join the conference.
She has been the first to join us this morning. What is the problem? Dr. Leila, are you with us?
She has written that she is here, but maybe she has a problem with her mic.
Indeed.
Hello. Yeah, yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Now, yes.
Yes, now, yes.
Can I start?
Yes, yes.
Madame Belkhiri, j'ai activé le partage de l'écran. Vous pouvez partager votre écran.
C'est terrible.
Maybe you can jump her and then you come back to her.
She's the last.
Oh,
She is the last speaker.
Yeah, she's the last speaker. Yeah. Would you please?
So can I take the advantage and say more about?
It's okay. Yeah. Dr. Leila, are you there? Dr. Leila? Hello? Are you there? Dr. Leila? Hello? Are you there? Dr. Leila? Hello? Are you there? Dr. Leila?
Professor Bubu,
Yes, sir.
you were not wrong. You were not wrong, okay, to raise the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were not wrong.
Thank you so much for being.
Lalat, elle s'est déconnectée. Hein?
Okay, no problem. Professor Kskes, would you please move to discussion because Professor Ruth and Professor Bubu are here. Okay, we move to discussion
Okay,
to
okay,
gain time
thank you very
because we
much.
have to start workshop sessions at 13 after half an hour, so we don't have time.
So we move to the second stage. Of course, I am ready to listen to your question, but I would prefer you maybe, okay, to ask your questions directly to the speakers because they didn't have a look actually, okay, to the chat box trail. So I haven't recorded the question. So members of the audience, you are welcome. If you have any questions to address to the different speakers, you are welcome.
I think Dr. Samia is there to help you with the chat box. Yeah.
Hello, this is Fatima from Tunisia. Can I ask a question for?
Of course.
Ruth?
Do,
yes.
Please.
Yes. Dear Ruth, you introduced the task in the writing to international students. So in this task, do you assign the task of writing comments about the piece of writing? That means you said a blog or something like this as a peer review activity. If so, do you usually prepare a rubric and explain the activity of the peer review beforehand to the learners? And thank you.
Professor.
Sorry, did Ruth hear my question? Have she?
Yeah, Samia, Dr. Samia, Professor Kskes,
Yes.
are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, would you
Yes.
please check if the Professor Ruth heard the question? Yeah, you transmit the question or invite her to answer.
Professor Ruth Breeze,
Yeah.
please, have you heard the question? I don't think she's still online, okay? We've got technical problems.
Yes, she is not with us, Professor
Okay,
Kskes.
no problem. Thank
She's not with us.
Thank you. No problem.
So any other questions are welcome, please.
Madame Belkhiri de la Tunisie vient de nous joindre. Elle est avec nous. Hein?
Yeah.
She's not with us.
Yeah.
No problem.
So any other questions are welcome, please.
Madame Belkhiri de la Tunisie vient de nous joindre. Elle est avec nous. Hein?
Yeah.
She's not with us.
Yeah. Professor Kskes.
Your questions are welcome, please.
Madame Belkhiri de la Tunisie vient de nous joindre. Elle est avec nous. Hein?
This is This is a real catastrophe.
Professor Kiskas,
Yes?
Leila from Tunisia is with us, Dr. Leila.
So Dr. Leila, you are welcome, okay? You can begin your presentation.
Yes. Can I start? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Let's start by presenting the plan of my talk. In the introduction, I proposed the purpose of the study and the research question. Then I introduce the key concepts of the paper title, what is meant by online learning, models of online learning, the types of online learning style in the realm of foreign language learning. Then in the methodology, I introduce the participant, the design, the instrument, and the pilot test. Let's start with the first part, what is meant by, or let's say, do you hear me?
Yes, yes, we hear you. We perfectly hear you. You are waiting for your document to be shown in the share screen. Or share screen. Use your share screen.
Sorry?
Have you got any document, okay, to display on the screen?
I sent it yesterday.
I can share it, Professor Kiskas. I can share her work from my PC if she doesn't mind.
Of course, okay, you can do it.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
I'm trying to do it. Dr. Samia.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Athena.
Yes, I'm trying to do it. Please let me know whether you see it on full screen.
So don't try, Athena. It's here. It's ready with me here. It's ready.
Athena, il faut que le fichier soit ouvert d'abord pour pouvoir le partager.
So Athena, please close your stop sharing your screen. I will. It's ready with me here. It's ready.
Athena, il faut que le fichier soit ouvert d'abord pour pouvoir le partager.
So Athena, please close your stop sharing your screen. Can you see Leila's PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, we do.
Here it is.
Okay, so Dr. Leila.
Yes, we do.
Finally, it's here.
You've just to start talking
Would
while
you please
the screens
would
are
you please put it
running.
on full screen?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just a minute. Here they are. Go ahead. I'm looking forward to hearing you, Leila.
Samia, it's not full screen.
Here it's full. With me, it's full.
No problem. Okay. Ask the lady to start, please.
Please, Leila, you can start.
Please, Dr. Leila Najah, start.
Dr. Leila?
Elle s'est déconnectée.
So Professor Kskes, what do you suggest? We move on with the discussion
We move
session?
on, okay, we move on to the debate, okay? I
Yeah.
have already said we can open the session of the debate of the questions. And if the members of the jury would like, okay, to ask questions, they can do it. But they may ask a question and at the same time having no one to reply. This is a problem.
Go ahead, launch the discussion timing.
Professor, Professor Kskes, may I have a word to Professor Abou?
Of course, you are welcome. You are welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning, Professor Abou once more. Have a word to Professor Abou?
Of course, you are welcome. You are welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning, Professor Abou once more. Have a word. Professor Abou, I have a question to you, if you don't mind. Thank you so much. Good morning, Professor Abou. Professor Abou?
Ah, yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Professor Abou, I want just to know or to have an answer to your question. I appreciated a lot your presentation, and I found that the title itself is a form of a title of your presentation is. The title of your presentation itself is a kind of question.
Yes.
When you said, I can ask the question,
Yeah.
Is blended learning or are blended learning models a magic solution? If I reverse the statement, I may say, can blended learning models be a magic solution to third world countries' educational systems? Or is it only a tragic journey to them? Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah, obviously, Dr. Moez, when you have, I have done as everybody else, plenty of definitions, advantages, disadvantages. I've seen so many teachers, presenting, the different blended, learning.
We can't hear you, Professor.
Would you please repeat?
Yes, how about now?
We can hear you.
Yeah, good. So you see, for Africans, or developing world, or the developing world as a whole. Now, of course, talking about Southeast Asia, and Asia, part of Asia, Africa, of course, Latin America. If the means are provided, of course, it will be absolutely magic for the developing countries too. But when you read about how the improvement and how this improvement had happened, it needed about more than 100 years, you know, and with different policies and different, you know, ways to help, to bring this help, you know, and get these developing countries to reach this level of education of today. And now with all these new means, so you have to again launch another program, another policies, another, you know, political decisions and here and there all over, not only the Western world, but the developing world too. And as you may know, the developing world, you know, politically speaking, when we think of their governments and so on, so of course we get a little bit hopeless and pessimistic. But definitely the tools, you know, and the means, it's not only the tools, in fact, because when you read about all what is happening in the United States, for instance, because they are the, there where, in fact, with the founding of the post office, at the same time, the first lectures and courses were sent through the post by teachers and learners, you know, and even exams, tests, you know, plenty of knowledge was exchanged through the post office. And from then on, of course, as Professor Najai said before, you know, blended learning had existed since, you know,
20 years. It has existed with blended coffee.
No, it exists. You said 20 years?
Yeah.
I would say 200 years. How? It has become, it depends. It depends largely on what? On the means. So humanity had improved its technology, and systematically everything that goes with this technology develops too. So blended learning, you know, just by the fact of sending a letter or listening in the radio, you know, courses were given in the radio, math, language, and so on television in Algeria, the national unique then, you know, we had about an hour or 2 hours a day, you know, of physics, lectures on physics, on English language, yeah, and so on. So it has always existed. And what made it today, you know, how many modes you have in blended learning? You have 12. I have found that they cited 12 different ones, rotation, lab rotation, you know, so plenty of terminology, as I said. And you know, this is good. This is all, you know, like going on. But I'm thinking, as I said, I'm the product of public schools, as everybody else in Algeria, and I want it to remain. I want to defend it. You know, private schools today, they are like mushrooms everywhere. The United States, you know, which I know well, you know, is just absolutely, you have the money, you get the best education. You don't have the money, you get nothing, or you get to what you can pay. And this is, I simply reject it. I just repel it, you know. I don't stand with such Now for the third developing countries, Dr. Mouez, you know, I believe if they don't bring all what the UNESCO, you know, suggests, yeah, and advise, they will be lost. They will definitely be lost. And I think yet again, you know, it's maybe a strategy, you know, to to inhabit Europe again, and with all those labor hand force, that they need in Europe and the United States. I mean, in the developed world, and that's it. It's all a question of business. When you go deep into your thinking, then you believe that this is all about. It's just, you can compare it, this new, systems, that they propose, I've seen it just like the vaccine they provided for the virus, the coronavirus, COVID-19, just such a publicity on TV, on radio, about it, that, the vaccine is good, it's gonna work, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, and that's it. Within 6 months, they come back and they say, it's not as efficient as 100% or 90%. So you have to have a second one, and so on. Yeah, a third one, and then up a fourth one. So all whatever is suggested and proposed in the different academic articles, and all these periodicals, journals, magazines, and so on, it's no more than publicity. This is how I see it myself, because they are indeed money makers as these vaccine makers or vaccine manufacturers all over the world, right? So imagine, that's it.
Yeah.
Time is over.
Yeah.
Right.
We might have other questions.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think we have any more questions, lady.
Yes, I have a question.
You have a question? You are welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Dr. Abubu. Thank you very much for your... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation, Professor Abubu. I liked very much your title. It's a bit, thank you. Magic solution to Western world education, or tragic journey of backwardness, to third world countries' educational system. According to what you have said in your presentation, the question is, what would you suggest? What I have understood from your presentation is that you disapprove the use or the strategy of, going in the strategy of using blended learning in higher education. In this means, what would you suggest? Do you disapprove the use of technology at all, or do you opt for, maintaining the traditional face-to-face class, or traditional education? Thank you. I hope you understand my question.
Yeah, I did. I hope I did. No. What technology does not belong to us. Do you know that we buy everything? 90% of all what we consume, we buy it. That is not ours, right? Maybe we have some men and women all over the world that live elsewhere than our own country, or maybe all these developing countries experience the same situation as ours. And with technology, it's absolutely fantastic. I like it very much, but it belongs to those who work day and night to improve, and had improved and had even helped. And I'm telling you, when you go to the papers of the UNESCO, you're gonna see that colossal efforts were made, indeed, to help these poor continents, you know. I mean, developing countries are so called today. We, in our case, Algeria, as it is, you know, it's just, you know, we have probably talent and we have competence and we have plenty of young men and women that can provide this, you know, the technology itself and this country with fantastic, fantastic outcomes. But they're not provided with the opportunity to and the chance to do it. As simple as that. But don't worry, I'm with technology, definitely, but with technologies that we control, because we have no control over it whatsoever.
The example is
Yeah.
that happened today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the answer. All right.
You're welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question, Professor Keskes?
Of course, do, of course.
Excuse me, just a second, please. Just for remark for Professor Keskes, the moderator